Hi there, everybody. Welcome to another album review. My name is Christian Eschbach. All right, folks. So this is Iommi Fuse, Tony Iommi with Glenn Hughes, originally released in 2004. I missed out on it because at that point in my life, kids, young kids, all my time and money went to my kids, not so much to my music. Just played in the background in the house. But that being said, I am thrilled that I picked up this reissue of it because I am happy to talk about it. And I got to start with mentioning that the producer on this album is Bob Marlette, who I absolutely love. He does a great job of producing albums, captures such great, thick, rich sound. I can always tell a Bob Marlette produced album at this point. Um, and I've covered a few of them. So, anyways, the one thing that is great about this album is this album proves that Ozzy was not Black Sabbath, and arguably Ozzy is the worst part of Black Sabbath. Why do I say this? Because if you listen to the Black Sabbath 13 album, you listen to this album, you listen to the Heaven and Hell album, you listen to every album that has come out, not necessarily from Black Sabbath, because there were definitely some not great albums in there, because Dio's got some issues in there too. Let me be very clear. Not everything he did was perfect either. And I've covered those in Sabbath albums. But arguably, this album is everything that 13 should have been and wasn't for some inexplicable reason of stupidity. The album opens up with Dopamine. Dopamine, pretty decent tune, great way to open up the album. Right away, it sets up the vibe and the tone you're going to hear the whole way through. There is definitely some, I'm going to call it some post-grunge in here. You get a little of that drone kind of going on in the vocals and the lyrics and even the guitar a little bit. Dopamine's one of the ones that really showcases it, and I don't mind it too much, but it does get a little annoying after this, which I'll kind of get into as we go. Wasted Again, I don't mind. The first time through, it was kind of like, okay, whatever. Second time through, it was like, okay, that's not bad. Third time through, oh, that's growing on me. Then you got Survivor of the Real, which follows that up. Real, as in, the real world kind of thing. Survivor of the Real. Musically fantastic. I'm going to be honest, one of my biggest issues with this album, and the reason I'm going to kind of downplay it a little bit more than I probably want to, is I'm not huge on Glenn Hughes as a vocalist. I have nothing against him. It's just, of all the metal vocalists, like when you look at, especially like through the 80s and stuff like that, or all the different bands and whatnot, Glenn Hughes has got a decent voice, but it's not a voice I'm overly into. And, when you compare him to like some of the other bands, Glenn Hughes has been in and worked with and whatnot, like even if this were a Black Sabbath album with Glenn Hughes as, the vocalist, I would probably still put Tony Martin above him. You know what I'm saying? And it's just his voice. Nothing against Glenn Hughes. I think he's a really good vocalist, but he's a little too nasally for me. And coming from me, I'm nasally. So when he starts droning, it really kind of drones a little extra. So it kind of doesn't. It kind of kills a few of the songs for me. Riff wise and music wise, these are Tony Iommi tracks, man. Some are a little more kind of just, they're there. And Survivor of the Real kind of feels like it's a little more just there. The next song, Resolution Song, a little more there. Then you get into Grace, and Grace, I actually perk back up again, and I'm like, oh, this is actually a really, really good tune, and I like, I just really dig on this one in the way that they approach it, and it doesn't sound like a cliche Sabbath tune. It actually sounds a lot more. This would have sounded like Nickelback at the time. Really, like earlier on, Nickelback when they first broke out, like Silver Side Up, maybe even Enemy of the State kind of thing. When in nice, thick, heavy. Once again, it's that kind of post grunge kind of thing. But I really like Grace, and I think Grace probably should have been a radio single. I really do. I think if Grace had been released as a radio single, I think this album would have picked up and done better than it did. There's part of me wants to think that I heard Grace on the radio and I attributed it to one of the other bands of the time that were breaking out, like maybe Disturbed or one of those other ones in that time period ish. Uh, that's followed up by Deep Inside a Shell, and this is another one, man. This one, okay, really weird because okay, we go from having kind of that Nickelback kind of post grunge kind of vibe. I hate using that term, but it is the best word for it. It's not really grunge, but there's definitely some elements of grunge in there. But we go from that with into Deep Inside a Shell, and Deep Inside a Shell kind of feels like it's a switch over to some of the more kind of pop punk almost kind of bands. I'm trying to think. There's a specific band I'm trying to think of, and I've covered them before. Even they're out of Montreal, a Quebec band. Really can't think of their name. Yeah, sorry, folks. Uh, Kind of in the same vein as Blink 182, some 41 ish, not quite. Maybe a little Billy Talent, sort of. Maybe even Billy Talent might be even kind of deep inside a shell might be a little very kind of Billy Talenty sort of. Anyways, moving on. I where I'm going with that though is I really do dig deep inside a shell. The vocals are the biggest kind of throw off on that one, and that is only because it does have the kind of same intonation and tone as a lot of that pop punk stuff did. What You're Living For isn't a bad tune. Face Your Fear is not bad. The Spell, ooh, I really dig this one. Really get into The Spell. It's just great tune, great lyrics, great everything about it. The Spell might be my favorite song on this album, or probably what I'd pick as maybe the best standout song. Not necessarily the best single, but the best standout song, man. Like, really feels like it's a great tune. And then the original album finishes with I Go Insane. Um, I don't mind I Go Insane. I think it would have been a great way to finish off the original album. No issues there. Then you have three bonus tracks, which is Slip Away, Let It Down Easy, and The Innocents. Let It Down Easy is this killer, blistering 80s metal-y kind of track, like kind of in the glam vein. But it's good, man. Like, I really, really like the way it rips up on here. And I think Let It Down Easy should have been switched out for one of the other songs in the original 10. I would have probably switched Let It Down Easy with either Savior of the Real or Resolution song. Uh, yeah, it's that's kind of where I am with that one. Yeah, that's it, folks. I got really nothing else to add to this one. I like this album. I really do enjoy this album. It's got some real kick-ass tracks on there. It really does. I really enjoy Grace. Dopamine's not bad. Deep Inside a Shell is pretty good. The Spell's fantastic. Let It Down Easy is fantastic. The whole way around, I'm happy I picked up this album. I'm not going to complain about this album at all. My only complaint really does come down to Glenn Hughes' voice. If it had been Tony Martin on, if this had even been a combination of every Sabbath vocalist, and that's including Ian Gillan. All right, so every vocalist that ever been in Sabbath, if every vocalist had ever been in Sabbath, and you can include Glenn Hughes, okay, we'll leave Glenn in here as well. Put them all in here because yes, Glenn Hughes kind of sort of is on a Sabbath album. So, I think I'd have to double check on it. Anyways, going off track. Where I'm going with this, if this had been a mix of different vocalists like the first Iommi album was, I think I would have enjoyed it more than I did. Glenn Hughes on a couple tunes is great. Glenn Hughes on an entire album kind of wears on me a little bit, unfortunately. Anyways, folks, my thoughts, my views, my opinions. Let me know you down below, down comment section. What are your thoughts, your views, your opinions? There's a like button, a subscribe button, a bell for notifications. If you could please hit those, I'd appreciate it. There's a couple links down below. Check those out. Otherwise, folks, peace, love, take care, and I'll see you in the next review.